Hey, everybody, welcome to Using My Story. So good to be here with each and every one of you. Man, we've been having some great podcasts every single week. But today, it's a special day. I have a really cool guest, Dr. B. Welcome. Welcome to the podcast.
Isaac, I'm honored that you had me on here. When Nicole told me about it, I got really excited. I'm familiar with your channel, so thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure, and I'm honored.
Appreciate it. Yeah, you're a legend around here, Dr. B.
So, well, I appreciate that, and thank you. But I'm just one of the other people.
Yeah, we got. It's crazy that we've never met, even though we've been. Austin and Nicole are like mutual connections of
And
ours.
we're only 30 minutes away. My practice is 30 minutes from here. And I've known about you. I know about your treatment centers. I know the podcast. And I was like, wow, he's 30 minutes away. But again, I want to make these kinds of things happen more often. But yeah, it's crazy.
I really appreciate that. Well, usually we like to get started by letting you introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you do, and then we'll hop into some questions. So, you want to share a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I go by Dr. Beats, Dr. Banimahd. I'm a medical doctor. And for several years now, I've been in the substance abuse space, addiction, whatever you want to call it. Um, Historically, I've been an academic emergency medicine practitioner. I was at a couple of major universities. I was assistant clinical professor. I've probably seen over 70,000 patients collectively.
Wow.
I've trained medical students, I've trained residents, I've been involved in a lot of research. Eventually, I kind of transitioned into this. And in this space, to make it short, I've done it all. I've had. We, what I had wasn't sober living homes. It was evidence-based reentries, what we called
Got
it.
it.
I've ran a methadone clinic. I've ran detoxes, owned them, IOP, PHP. Eventually, but mainly, I've always had a gravitated towards an office-based medical practice. Just like you go to your cardiologist,
Mm.
I look at addiction as sort of this tertiary chronic disease, and we really that's our kind of centerpiece. And today, I only deal with that because of a lot of other things that I'm involved in. I sort of slim things down, and I run a medical practice, Zephyr Medical Group, which is a substance abuse medical practice.
That's great. That's
Yeah,
great. And we'll put your links in the bio and down in
sure.
our captions and everything like that to make sure everybody can reach out to you if they need to. Um, you know, most of the time, what we do on the podcast is we have people share their stories of how they overcame addiction, mental health issues. Um, but today, I think you know what we've noticed, Doctor B, and what I noticed is because we've been having this channel for like maybe three or 4 years, maybe five. But when we first started it, it was just about stories, and then we started having what really kind of messed me up in a good way, kind of like broke my heart a little bit, was we started having young people reach out to us from other countries like Russia, the UK, and they were letting me know like if they said we can't get treatment here because if we open up about our addiction, we're going to be locked away for the rest of our lives. And so we kind of pivoted to be a little bit more educational to try to, because you can't just hear about something like that and then look away and act like it's not happening. I mean, I can't. I can't.
Sure.
So we started making educational videos about how to deal with addiction, how to it's very unsafe, and we'll talk about a lot of that, with certain substances like Xanax and alcohol, benzos. So we just started trying to do our best and really try to help people that are unreachable.
Yeah.
And because there's a lot of people that don't have the luxury of treatment like we do here in the States. So I think I want to kind of focus on that lane a little bit with you since we have you here. You're a high level professional. Um, Maybe you could share a little bit about some of the trends you're seeing with the younger people and how addiction and education can work with them.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you brought this sort of medium, the podcast or the channels, as a source of education. And I'll even extend it from young people to all ages. And you mentioned that people started reaching out. In fact, my own channel, the main channel that I really kind of focus on, my YouTube channel, was exactly that. Was it, and it still is. It's the main goal is education, maybe a little bit of entertainment, and empowerment. Right.
Mm.
That's what I look for. And that's really necessary. But I'll even go further. It's not just young people.
Yeah.
I would say across all ages, and even in this country, we're even 20 years, 20 plus years, and we're into what they call the fourth wave of the epidemic, which we don't have to get into, but it's silly. It's on a graph. It's a fourth wave, but it's silly. It just shows that we haven't done our job as a society. And I still think if you go into the correct areas, many areas, people don't have access to good care, whether it's MAT or treatment
Yeah.
at all levels. And so it makes this kind of avenue so much more important. It's interesting, and maybe she's listening the other day. It almost broke my heart. I think last month I got 11,000 messages, and many of those are positive. And people say, "Hey, you kept me in line," whatever, which is a very strange new thing for me as a
Yeah.
medical doctor, because I demand on seeing you, touching you, and then making a plan. And one of these messages was from a lady. Hey, I just saw whatever your video, whatever it was. My husband used to love you, and he is passed away. So when I watch him, I get that warm feeling because he found so much comfort in watching this channel. That being said, uh, 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 I can't stress enough how important the educational part of what you're doing is in reaching out to so many out there. And you mentioned other countries, and I get messages from all over the world, Indian subcontinent, Middle East, Europe, Russia, but even here.
Yes.
And it's not just the young. The young are even more marginalized. If you want me to speak additionally and directly to that,
Yeah.
let's take from the age 18 down. Okay. And in public health and in medicine, there's these concepts of, marginalized population, right? These are populations that have a more difficult time gaining access to whether it's healthcare, education, etc. They do worse. Now, when you take the young, it's even worse because they often don't have rights, privileges, financial means. Okay, this is a very vulnerable population, and I use quote unquote on that because that's also a public health term.
Yeah.
And they're worst off because they don't have the voting rights. They don't have the lobbying money, right? They often get left to the side. Now you add to it substance abuse. Now you add to it violence in the house. Now you add to it emotional abuse, lack of resources, lack of brain being fully developed as an adult.
Yeah.
And finally, this is the time where we should insert ourselves as leaders, meaning parents, teachers, administrators, guys in your position, okay? This is the you want a future without substance abuse, suicide, anxiety? Reach the young. Pay teachers more. Fund something like this where you're talking about where we're reaching out to the young and giving them guidance. You want a better future for the world? Take care of this business. I feel strongly about that, and I would. The only thing I would add to what you said was it's not even just people overseas. Man, you should see. Do you? I don't remember the number. Food insecurity. It's a concept. It's often used in issues going on in the Middle East right now with children. It's just not being certain of your next meal, and that it turns out to be calorie counts, all that stuff. In the United States, I don't remember the figure. There's an inappropriate number of children having food security every day. That's wrong, right? And that will lead to decreased brain development, decreased education, substance abuse, legal problems, and chronic health problems in the long run. I don't know if you're familiar with this. I'll let you look it up. I'll add one last thing. ACEs. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Adverse childhood events, right?
Yes.
That's the clinical term for trauma, right? And the study goes, I think in the 90s by a Kaiser guy, these adverse childhood events, which people think it's, hey, maybe it's, it's just taking a kid and slamming him against the wall or no.
Yeah.
There's a subtlety in this, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, being around drugs, alcohol. The number of things that this contributes to going wrong in that kid's future is just off the charts. It's unbelievable. And so, yes, it's critically important for us to be able to reach the young, cultivate them, develop them, be their voice, be their advocate, and empower them to a positive, healthy growth and avoiding substance abuse or getting them out as soon as possible.
That's huge. Talk a little bit about that fourth wave.
The fourth wave, which is now, this bump, if you look at the overdose rates, it just keeps going up, right?
Yeah.
And people forget this stuff started long time ago, and it was the prescription opiate drug problem. It was the doctor's fault. It was Big Pharma's fault. I've always argued against that sort of categorical thinking. No. We are a society.
Yeah.
It's all of our faults.
Yes.
Okay. You also chose to go to the doctor. You should trust the doctor, but you should have some understanding of what the heck's going on. It is our culture. It is how we. It is our systems, infrastructure, our hospitals, our legal systems. Everything contributes to it. Okay. So it was recognized. Here we are. Overdose deaths, I think last year or the year before, were over 100,000. I could be a little bit off. And, researchers are trying to sort of sort this out. Well, we still don't have the systems in place to address this. Substance abuse isn't going anywhere until you deal with the root issues like addressing our children's needs. Yeah. And, they're attributing some of that fourth wave of overdoses to the increase in methamphetamine use. And I would say, overdoses are going to continue to increase, and it doesn't matter how much money you spend on the legal part of it, on the criminal part of it, because as Pablo Escobar told the DEA a long time ago when they asked him, how do we stop the influx of cocaine from you into our country? And he laughed and he said, stop the demand. And studies showed that.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, it's never going to end.
So I know you work with you've worked with thousands of individuals that struggle with addiction, and it's not every day people can. I mean, on your channel, it's every day they could hear about addiction from a doctor, which is a great resource. But what are some of the top things that people who are struggling with addiction, what are some of those top things that prevent them from actually getting better?
Yeah.
In your opinion, your experience.
Sure, that's a great question. I just kind of addressed it. I shot a video with Parham Nematola. He's a therapist, Buckeye Recovery, and me and him do some things like this regularly nowadays. And it's very nice. Again, it's educational. I think the way, if you're asking, if you bring me individual X and say, treat him, what are the barriers? I think, why is he not getting better? And I will say this, and tell me if this answers your questions. Our perception of addiction and someone suffering from substance abuse issues is wrong in many ways. Number one, all these shows, you're going into detox. Okay, look, going into detox is not curing addiction. It should be medically assisted withdrawals to make it safe and comfortable and get you into that road. Addiction is a chronic issue. If you look at the clinical data, the exacerbations and relapse, people might say, oh my God, they might stigmatize the addict because no one seems to understand this. Yeah. You're going to say to addicts, oh, he's an idiot, or he sucks, or he's a bad person because he's relapsing. No. Do you say that about someone's sugar issues? Do you say that about someone who has multiple sclerosis or lupus? It is the nature of chronic disease, and statistically, the exacerbations and relapses in substance abuse are the same graph of any chronic disease. This is not a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. You go in and purchase something and your life is amazing. It's a chronic issue, and how well a person does depends on their age, their sex, how long they're using, how many substances they're using, which nowadays is a nightmare, and their resources and the conditions in their social environment that contribute to them getting better or worse, and how long it's going to take. That's why it seems like people are not getting better. In addition, I think the treatments out there are there's a lot to be desired, right? Because of the stigma, and there's so much stereotype approach to scientifically approaching this, but also professionally, which means empathy, no judgment, don't do any counter-transference in a negative way, and embracing someone in a dire situation that no matter what, they need to be respected, and you need to impart empathy, and it takes time. And time is what we don't have in this society, because I can go out and buy a nice watch and I am king and everything is cured. No, that's a fantasy. We live in a society of fantasy and psychopaths, and substance abuse is a real disease of humans with complexities that takes time and humanity in addition to science. That's why. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. The reason why I asked you that is because we have a lot of different types of groups of people that watch this channel. Some people are parents trying to help their kids trying to help their parents. I'm sure you've seen, I know you're friends with Pej also, where, the amount of young people that are reaching out, like you said, from the States also, that don't know how to stop using XYZ. All these different people trying to figure out how to get the help they need. And so I think people that don't have access to treatment really would like to hear someone's opinion like yours about how they can get better. Now, I know you talked about there's a million different, it's like a Rubik's Cube, to figure it out. But I want to highlight something that you talked about, because, I've been free from it. I've been free from meth for about 18 years.
Wow, okay.
And I know for me, one of the key things was getting out of my environment, getting into a new environment. Can you share a little bit about the science behind that and what that means for people?
Yeah. You're talking, Power Home, in fact, just spoke about this stuff today, and we have a little ebook coming out. And
Say that again? Who was
Power Home Nematolo. He's the
Okay,
Buckeye
okay.
recovery therapist, and he's part owner, and he's been in this space in Orange County a long time. And we touched on that, but today we really touched on, that person, place, or thing issue, right? And, that's kind of what you're talking about. I will say this: no matter how complex your addiction is, how long you've been at it, how many substances are involved, and maybe this can resonate for you. There's a mechanism that's going on in your brain. Now, we can talk about it in psychological terms, or I can start getting into neural networks and rebuilding receptors and so on. Same thing. Let's talk about it in psychological terms, right?
Okay.
For someone to get clean, oftentimes, as Parham described it, it's a perfect psychological description. Usually it's an external factor that motivates, but without action. What could that be? A loved one demands it. Your wife, your kid demands it.
Yeah.
You're facing legal consequences. That's an external factor.
Yeah.
But you don't take and try and reach back into your visceral memory. You don't take that step until it's internalized. And, he described it in his way, and then I described it in my way. And what does internalizing mean? It means something inside of you that thinks taking that road is more valuable, and you want it more than the other road. Now, I will explain this. So in all of that complexity, one of the things that happens is, let's say I'm sitting here with you and you're the judge. And you say, Fareed, Dr. B, whatever, you got to get clean or you're going to prison and you're going to lose your kid's custody. And I'm like, I do not want that. That's horrible.
Yeah.
I could walk out of there. That's still an external factor. And I might push for a day, right? And then the next day, I might do that. I got to slam some dope, right? And I can do it. I can control this. And then failure happens, and then the consequences happen. But here's the beauty of it, or the good side of this. That is the nature of internalizing reason, okay? You can do this every single day you wake up. The thing you need to, and you will make a lot of mistakes in this road, and it's not a clean road. But every time you wake up, you'll eventually, all you're doing is you're actually, by your thinking and desire and processing it and meditating on it and being focused on it, you'll get to a day where you've had those 2 days clean and you're like, I feel pretty good. And I'm kind of craving. Then you say to yourself, you take that next step and you might be like, okay, let me think about this. Every time I've been here, I go use and it's a disaster.
Yeah.
And I'm in front of the judge again, or the wife locks me out, or I have to sleep homeless, or I lose everything I've made. I don't like that feeling. I don't like putting a needle in my arm, begging for money, being overdosed, whatever the issues are.
Yeah.
So I also have learned that, you know what? If I go for a run, or if I go sit in the corner, or if I get away from these people, or if I take a drive out of this neighborhood and I move away from here and I let time do its magic, in 3 hours, I'll feel differently. So I'm going to take that harder road that right now, because if I don't, in 2 hours, I'm not going to be happy with myself. That's internalizing. And so what I'm saying to you is, regardless of that complexity, and you will make mistakes in the way you do this approach many, many times. You know, if you start to realize person, place, thing, start there. Change your, if you can, because some people can't, right? Change your place, but then you change it, and then all of a sudden you'll see yourself drawn towards some nasty people. Okay. And then you fall in the same trap. Okay, do that 5 times, and God willing, you survive that. Okay, do that 5 times, then you're like, next time, oh, this dude's talking to me. He eyeballed me at the 7-Eleven. We know each other's lingo, right? We got the same vernacular. We got the same needs. He's eyeballing me, and he's gonna walk over here, and sure enough, it does. This time, I'm going to say to myself, I like that room that guy's giving me over the garage. Or I like the fact that mom let me back in the house. I like the fact that I'm seeing my kids. Whatever it is. And that one time, you're going to take a different step. And then you take another step. And then you fall back. That is the nature of it. But you know what, folks? You know, if I could tell anybody anything, never, ever, 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 ever give up.
Love it.
But use your brain. Okay, get to a place where you're thinking things out. There is a reality that's based on formal science. You might not understand it, but if you fail today, get up in the morning. The best thing about being alive, don't take no for an answer. Push. And get the heck out of the situation of addiction that you're in, or any other situation. And don't let anybody convince you of anything else. You are you. And you decide for yourself. Now, is that easy? No. I never told you. It's a hero's journey, and I never told you your road is going to be easy. But you know what? I'm going to tell you something else. Life is not easy. You're going to have to face that. Whoever you are out there, I don't care if you're sitting in a prison cell. I don't care if you're a kid in downtown Moscow, downtown Tehran, downtown London, downtown Indianapolis. I don't care. It's not going to be easy. No matter what you have, everyone has their own road. But the minute you give up, you're dead. Don't give up.
Don't give up. I love it. Man, can you believe that we're almost out of that 30 minutes? That's crazy.
I'm sorry.
No, I love it because, you know, the thing I could pull from what you're saying, and a lot of it is pretty technical, you know? And
there's by the way, there's a science behind everything I'm saying.
There is.
You know?
And it's very evident that there is a lot of science behind getting better. But I think where and I'm sure a lot of your patients would say this is you're like a coach in that boxing ring. You're just you have a
Sometimes,
little
yeah.
bit of tenacity about you, and I think people that struggle really need that because you, it's like if you're in the middle of the road and a truck is coming to hit you. You don't need someone to be like, hey man, there's a truck on its way. You might want to move. No, you need somebody, hey, get the heck out of the way, bro. A truck's coming. And you need people in your corner that are going to be like that could be aggressive with you and help you fight, because it is a fight.
It is a fight. It is a fight. And, whether you're in the treatment space, mental health part, or medical part, I think one of the things these folks run into, look, the average drug users, they've done a lot of people wrong in this road, but they've been abused, misused, and mistreated. And what they need is a little bit of professional empathy, compassion, and validation. My patients in my office, I do the urine testing, but I don't even walk up to look. I just ask you, what'd you do?
Yeah.
Right? They know they don't have to BS me. Right?
Good.
Okay, you did that? All right, what are we going to do about it? There's no judgment here. I'm not the police. I'm not a judge. I'm supposed to be a caring medical professional, just as long as you're not trying to burn my office down, right? Okay, these are your things. I'm going to help you through. You got issues. Let's be open about it. Now, of course, the cornerstone of what I do is medication-assisted treatment and manage medications, and I think we're really good at that. But outside of that, I think what gets people to us is the fact that they have a place where they feel safe, and we don't turn you away if you show up with a dirty urine. I mean, that's crazy. Guy's got a dirty urine for meth, but he's had a benzo problem by buying press pills on the streets, and now I have him on, let's say, 2 milligrams Klonopin a day stable. What am I going to do? Kick him out and tell him, all right, you're still using meth? Go. No, now you start working on the meth.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people fail to see or understand the importance of that in changing people's brains.
Progress. Keep making progress.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to get you back out here like 125 times.
My pleasure anytime.
I really appreciate you coming, and I know people are going to be able to reach out. We'll direct them to you, anybody that needs your help. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having me
here. You're like a encyclopedia. So we're just gonna keep turning the pages, doctor.
No, it's my pleasure anytime. It helps people. We love it, and it makes you sleep warm and fuzzy at night.
Yeah.
No matter how crappy the day was.
Exactly, and it's a privilege to be able to help people. Help
Absolutely
them get better,
is.
help them get their life back.
It absolutely is. If you're in a position to help people, it's a priesthood. And you should look at it as you're in a position of a priest. It's a privilege, not a right. And I think people that are in our positions, in any shape, whether a counselor, business, or a medical professional, you have to take it as a privilege, not a right.
That's good.
Right.
Hey, well, we really appreciate you coming on, Dr. B.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Let's get this word out. Let's get people the help that they need. Thanks again, doctor.
Thank you.
See you guys next week.
Bye, guys.